Hi friends, my name's Trisha Roberts and you're watching Faint Signals from Vega. It's an interesting phenomenon on my channel, Faint Signals from Vega, that occasionally when I post a straight out vegan video, I'll lose like 1 or 2 subscribers, and then I start, I might do a anti-war, anti-imperialist one, and then I gain 1 or 2, and then I do a vegan one, and then I lose 2. So it's like it goes back and forth. And so I just wanted to be clear, because it's in the account section of this channel. I've got little Nandi visiting me right here at the moment. I just wanted to be clear what this channel is. It's an anti-war, anti-imperialist, and vegan channel. So it's sort of I address those issues, and sometimes I mix them up and mix them together because they're related. And veganism is an ethical position, and it's about non-violence, and it's about rejecting the use of animals for food, clothing, entertainment, and other reasons. And that means, when I say food, I mean meat, dairy, eggs, honey, etc. When I talk about veganism, if I don't talk about it, and if I don't mix it in sometimes with other issues, like anti-war and anti-imperialism, it would be a bit dishonest of me, because I would be ignoring the greatest violence on the planet today, which is 1 trillion land and aquatic animals every year for completely trivial reasons, and mostly palate pleasure, whom we torture and kill. If I ignored that issue of non-human animals and their exploitation, that would be just very strange, particularly for a vegan. So that's why I mix it in too with when I'm talking about violence against humans. I will bring up veganism every so often, because if we're exploiting and killing non-human sentient animals at a rate of 1 trillion a year plus, and that's sort of 200 million or more a day, for me to ignore that and pretend that's not happening would be just too strange. So anyway, I hope that this is just really a quick video saying that I hope that you will stick with me when I raise those issues, because it is related. And not only is it related to non-human animals, it's related to us, and it's related to the planet and climate change, and I speak about that regularly, how animal agriculture is arguably the greatest driver of the climate chaos, the 6th mass extinction, and so forth. And I'll quickly show you a meme. That's pretty astounding science-based research. So anyway, so I hope that, when I do bring up veganism, and I might be talking about some other issue, it's sort of second nature to me, because I'm constantly aware of what we're doing to non-human animals, constantly. And just like when people ignore the issue of Palestine, and they pretend that there's other issues. I see it all the time. People will talk about all kinds of awful situations going on, in the world, and just completely ignore Palestine, the apartheid situation for Palestinians. And that's because, you get so much pushback from that. You get smeared and ridiculed, and, on Facebook you get hassled and stuff like that. It's sort of, the Hasbara is out in force to keep the narrative that Israel is defending itself and all this kind of stuff, right? So, and a lot of people, rather than have the grief of that, or, as in relation to celebrities and people like that, they don't mention it, because their careers will suffer, their income will suffer, and so forth. So it's taking a chance when people are making money in mainstream media. Say, for example, Mark Lamont Hill. He talked about the Palestinian rights, and they tried to make an example of him by firing him. That's CNN, right? Anyway, but you know, this is the thing. If we allow sort of the powers that be and the establishment to control the narrative, meaning to just pretend the Palestinians are not under a brutal occupation, or to pretend that certain forms of animal exploitation are okay, or that there's such a thing as humane exploitation, which a lot of animal organizations like to put out, which is completely false and so non-vegan to put out such a, you know, falsehood like that. If we allow, you know, different organizations and the government and mainstream media to control the narrative, and we don't speak about these things, then nothing's really ever going to change. So I don't really care if there's 5 people watching my channel or 50 or 500. I don't care. You know, it's really, I'm not doing this to be popular. If I was doing this to be popular, well, I'd have to be like 35 years younger. I'd have to be 35 years younger, and that's not possible. I would have to probably be talking about food all the time, and how yummy vegan food is, and showing you dishes. And but I probably wouldn't be talking about it at all, you know, if I wanted to be popular. And if I wanted to be popular, I wouldn't be talking about anti-war and anti-imperialism, because today, you know, you're amazingly, if you're for peace, suddenly you've now become some sort of Putin tool or a useful idiot. I mean, black is white, up is down, you know. So anyway, what I'm saying is, I do this in the hopes that I can help make people aware that veganism is a very, very, very important issue, and it concerns all of us. And until we end animal exploitation, there will never, ever be peace in the world. Never. Never, ever. So until we address that first thing, our exploitation of non-human animals, and we, you know, we address it in a serious way by becoming vegan, not by, you know, cutting back on meat or something, or excluding one species at a time, that sort of thing. You know, or becoming vegetarian first, all these sort of so-called baby steps. If we know something's wrong, then we just should reject it, period. Just like if we know racism is wrong, we don't become racist 2 days a week and then the other 5 days we're not racist. We just reject it outright, and the same with speciesism. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I'm trying to help make people aware how connected this issue of exploiting the vulnerable, and because we can, is related to all these other issues. And I want people to try and try and put aside our pre-existing ideas about non-human animals, that they're here for us to use, that they're stupid, or that they're lesser because they don't have the same cognitive skills that we have, or that they don't have the same recognizable emotions and so forth. That they have to be like us for them to morally matter. I want people to sort of put aside these pre-existing notions of sentient animals and stop seeing them as other. And when we stop seeing them as other, then we can't possibly engage in eating animal products and wearing animal products and using them for entertainment and so forth. And eventually it becomes so apparent this is such an aberration, like that it's so awful what we're doing, that when we go into supermarkets, when we see animal products on the shelves, we see individuals that have been murdered and tortured, sort of so frivolously, because we don't need animal products at all to survive. We can easily meet all our nutrition requirements from plants and other non-animal sources. So all those animals on those shelves, and the milk on the shelves, and the cheese and the yogurt and the eggs and all of that, are all products of violence, and tremendous violence. And until we take a first step to a non-violent life and become vegan, all these other things that we're doing, forgive me, are really just scraping the surface. It's important, of course, but I mean, if we're engaging in violence at least 3 times a day, that's a lot of violence, and that's a lot of deaths, a lot of torture. So until we address that in ourselves and become vegan, all these other things, it's sort of very morally inconsistent. And we like to be morally consistent, don't we? If we're for peace and nonviolence, then we really want to be for peace and nonviolence, don't we? We don't want to pick and choose, right? So anyway, I hope that when I raise these issues about veganism, and I might be talking about some other issue, I hope that you won't sort of like tune out and go, oh God, here she goes again. Here she goes again talking about something that's really not relevant. Oh, I would stick with her channel maybe, except that this sort of, it makes me feel uncomfortable, or it's not relevant, and so forth. I want you to sort of like start to just, for it to become normal in your mind, that it's quite fine, and it's quite appropriate, and it's quite relevant to pretty much all these issues that I'm speaking about. Because otherization is at the base of a lot of the violence today. Otherizing people because they're a different race, otherizing people because they're a different gender, otherizing people because they have different sexual preferences, otherizing people because they're, whatever, this and that and this and that. Why can't we just let people live? As long as people are respecting one another's rights and are not harming people, let's sort of stop otherizing, and that's at the base, that's at the root of all this violence pretty much today. So it's completely relevant, and I hope that, rather than reach for the unsubscribe button or reach for the dislike sort of option, or leaving sort of snarky comments in the comments section, or leaving ad hominem attacks or misogynist attacks, that you will sort of like think, okay, well, I can handle this. I mean, it's sort of, even if you just sort of sit there and kind of go, put yourself into neutral, just for a little while, and just listen, with an open mind. It's not going to cost you anything to do that. And if you happen to become vegan, as you're watching these videos, if you realize what you're participating in, I'm more than happy to help you, to assist you in becoming vegan. It's really not difficult. It's quite easy. Despite all the mainstream disinformation and misinformation, it's really quite easy. The most difficult thing is breaking through the speciesism that stops us from recognizing other sentient beings as morally important, and that we don't have the right to use them. That's probably the hardest thing. There'll be some times where it might be a bit tricky. There are people who like to, they feel uncomfortable with people being vegan, the very existence of them, not that you don't have to say anything, just the existence, because it causes cognitive dissonance. And so, they might say something, smart ass, something that's, or something that puts you down or whatever. I've experienced that in my own extended family. And you experience it every so often, but that's okay. God, is that, if that's just the occasional discomfort like that, really, we get that, if you're a peace activist now, if you're against war, people call you, they smear you, in fact, some people, or they, they say, think that you're expecting too much. I mean, really, if one is expecting that we shouldn't be bombing their countries to the ground and making them refugees or killing families and children, if that's sort of asking for too much, then good Lord, you know, like heavens above. How sad is that? If that's where we are, then maybe we really do need to go extinct if that's where we are as a species. But there are a lot of good people in the world that don't think that. And I'm really, really hoping that those who call themselves, particularly in the United States, those who call themselves progressive, that they acknowledge this issue in a real way, not in some sort of weird nutrition health aspect, because it's not about that. Although your health will improve for sure if you eat a balanced plant-based diet. It will definitely improve, tremendously so. But that's not what veganism is about. And we really have to grasp this for climate chaos and the sixth mass extinction. We really do. It's a tremendous, eating animal products is probably the greatest driver of the climate chaos, the sixth mass extinction, the destruction of the rainforest, tremendous use of water resources, land degradation, dead zones in the ocean, destruction of the ocean, and so forth. It's a tremendous thing. It's no small potatoes. Being involved in animal exploitation by not being vegan, it's no small potatoes. It's a big deal. And as people on the left, people who want a non-violent planet and peace, we have to be vegan. We really do. I'm sorry. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We have to be vegan. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm more than happy to help, to assist you in any way if you have any questions, if they're sincere questions. Not these silly what about plants. I could debunk everything that you put to me. Everything. I've been doing this for 12 years or more. I've heard every excuse and they're all poor, and I could just debunk it like that. But please don't waste my time, okay? I'm happy to link to resources you can read. howtogovegan.org, that's my own. It's a podcast, a comprehensive vegan podcast. It's got lots of information in it, and you can listen to it any time. So please consider going vegan, and please try and hang in there if I do start talking about that. Because for me to pretend that's not an issue, or it's not as big, at least as big as these other issues I'm talking about, would be incredibly disingenuous of me. I'm not trying to, I don't care if I only have, as I say, 5 subscribers or 500 or whatever. I don't care. My reason for doing this is to get people to see that veganism is related to these other issues. I've been approaching it that way for a few years now, because they are. It became very clear to me. So, you know, that's my first thing. And the second thing is, well, it's actually the first, second, and third thing. It's really what I'm trying to do here. So anyway, I thank you very much for watching, and I thank you if you hang in there. And if you don't like the blending of these issues, I'm sorry, I just can't do it any other way, because it's in the forefront of my mind, you know, the issue of veganism. And how could it not be? Because I'm surrounded by animal exploitation, and I know how much suffering and death is involved in it. And these are not just animals in quotes. These are sentient beings. Only yesterday I saw somebody's account, and they were really outraged about how Johns Hopkins University is torturing octopuses, and they're torturing monkeys and all sorts of different species in these experiments, you know, these so-called research things, which are just most of these things are completely trivial, and they are completely wrong-headed too. If you look into, I mean, there are ways of not using animals to get these results. It's just that it's so easy to use millions of rats and cats and dogs and all sorts of animals because they're viewed as property. It's easy to do that, you know, because we see them as resources. So, you know, why not? If you can, why look for any other methods? But there are methods, many methods already, to doing research that doesn't involve torturing and killing animals. And they do all sorts of horrific, absolutely horrific things, and it's all under the Animal Ethics Council approved things. You know, I mean, it's absolutely outrageous. You know, so, but the thing is, right, the reason I don't talk about animal experimentation, animal research nonsense, torture, I should just call it animal torture. The reason I don't do that is because 99% of the animals we torture and kill today are mainly for food. And if we care about what's on our plates, then we will care about those animals, the 200 million or more a year. Probably a lot more because they don't even count rats and mice, who are sentient, by the way, and they do the most horrific things to them. But, you know, it's actually a small proportion of the amount of animals that are tortured and killed every year. And if we care about what's on our plates, we're going to care about that too. But just note that there are so many different species that they just, whatever whim comes into universities' heads or medical research heads, they just go ahead and do it. And they get the approval of the Ethics Council, the Animal Ethics Council, which is just absolutely ridiculous. I went off track there a little bit, but when this person posted this thing about the octopuses and all of that on Twitter, and they were outraged and everything, I thought to myself, I bet you that woman is not vegan. And I left a little message, about no animal will be safe until society stops viewing non-human animals as resources. And the way to do that is to become vegan and encourage others to do so. No animal is safe. No whale is safe, like the Japanese have started whaling again, and you get all these organizations spending millions of non-vegan donations to end whaling. Meanwhile, those donors are eating animal products and participating in this 1 trillion land and aquatic animals that are killed. And a lot of animals, aquatic animals, all the species that we fetishize, like whales and dolphins and sharks and all that kind of thing, millions and millions of them are caught up in the fishing industry because they for every pound of fish, there's 4 pounds of other animals, other species, all those species. There's 100 million sharks even killed every year, just as quote-unquote bycatch. That's something you won't hear about. So when you buy that piece of fish for your dinner tonight, there's 4 pounds of other animals, and who knows what species, all kinds of species, that have been killed for that one fish. And as the scientists say, by 2048, the oceans will be empty. And that's no surprise. And by the way, they just throw that bycatch over the side of the, they just throw it over. Dolphins, dolphins, sharks, all kinds of species. So if you care about all these species, if you care about the oceans, then you must be vegan. If you care about the 6th mass extinction, then you must be vegan. If you care about the Amazon rainforest being destroyed at a rate of, it's either 1 acre every minute or 1 acre every second. I don't know, I've seen 2 different stats on that, but watch Cowspiracy, the sustainability secret. and you'll find out more. Or watch Seaspiracy.org. That's Seaspiracy is the upcoming documentary about the fishing industry and what's happening there, made by the same people. You know, if we care about the Amazon rainforest and we care about other forests, then we must be vegan. If we care about all these other the quote-unquote wildlife, then we must be vegan, because they're going to be killed in the sixth mass extinction, or they're killed as predators, you know, predators to animal agriculture. And there's millions of those killed every year. Wolves and all sorts of animals are trapped, poisoned, drowned, you know, every year to protect quote-unquote animal agriculture, their animals. So it's an insanity, isn't it? It's an insanity. And for me to just pretend none of this is going on, that would be nuts for me. I just can't do it. So that's all I'm trying to say. So please try and, you know, if you find this an interesting channel, then please try and stick with it. If you don't, if you think I'm just flapping my mouth, you know, and not saying anything interesting, then that's fine too. Okay, so anyway, thanks very much for watching. My name's Trish Roberts, and it's 37 degrees Celsius today, which is very unusual for Tasmania. We have very mild temperatures here in summer, but we have like about 6 or 7 really hot days, and this is one of them. But I'm sitting under this lovely eucalyptus tree, and it's managing to keep me quite cool, so that's really wonderful. Anyway, so thanks very much for watching. My name's Trish Roberts. You're watching Faint Signals from Vega. Till next time, bye for now.